Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Advanced Dungeons & Dragons 2nd Edition Player's Handbook Read-Through. Today, we are going to start talking about races properly. We're going to start with the Dwarf. But before we begin, we're going to look at the variables for height, weight, age, for all the races. So we can see a lot of the things that most tables just kind of hand wave and don't really do, which I don't like, but we're going to look at it right now. All right, let's.
Hey, well, hold on. This isn't proper. Now we're good. Whew.
Oh, okay. Sorry. All right, it says right here, after you've selected a race, you may want to fill in the details of your character. You're not required to do so. Nothing I'm gonna talk about here up until we get to height, weight, and age affect the mechanics of the game. So you don't need to do it now or even at all. But there are some options that you may want your character to be known to have. Your sex, male or female. In 2nd edition AD&D, this doesn't matter. Mechanically for the game, it does not matter.
Got a question for you.
Yeah.
Oh my God, he's gonna make me drink again. We'll get to that.
That's 2.
Yeah. By the way, just for the people who don't watch the Friday stream that won't be back till the next year, I'm not going to get drunk on stream. You can't keep donating $50, so I'll probably do the one during this segment and one during the next segment. But thank you very much, Patriot Gestalt. And I'm running low on the alcohol. It's getting down there. But question for you, and
yeah.
Oh, by the way, did we meet our goal already?
Okay.
95. Okay. No. A lot of things going on. It's a live stream, folks, even though you're probably watching later in video. So, did you ever have any heartburn, either way, on either side of the fence, with the idea of male and female having different attributes, like in AD&D first edition, where females did not suffer a -1 to strength? That is a misnomer. People say that all the time.
They did suffer the percentile strength deficit, though.
Yeah, but it was just a maximum. Wasn't a
yeah,
negative.
It was a maximum. They could only have, what, 1850?
Yeah, I think it was 1850, yeah.
1851, something like that.
Do you like, how to say, do you have any animosity? I want to actually do it on the negative side. Do you have any hatred for males and females are just equal across the board? Or, come on, really, are you going to really have these minutiae in here of a girl being different than a boy? Like, is there anything in there that sits wrong with you?
No. I mean, I understood the fact that a female character of a race can never be as strong as a male character of the race because of how they're built. That's just, it's mirroring reality. So I didn't have a real problem with that. Taking it away, I don't have a real problem with that either. I mean, it is a game.
Yep.
And it is a fantasy game. It is not reality. So you don't have to adhere to reality in the game. I got no problem with that. Now, what 2nd edition did keep is the height and weight differences. So a male will likely be taller than a female, and will likely weigh more than a female of the same race. Now, is that always going to be the case? Of course not, because as we're going to see later, there's random rolls involved.
Yeah, if you want to go that route. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
By the way, pretty much what he said, that's what I agree with that. I'm like, I don't think it's necessary to have a game that goes into the DNA and the complete biology of how strong a male and female is for the purposes of playing a game. Red Sonja was pretty kick-ass. Just saying, as a character.
If Red Sonja fought Conan, I wouldn't put money on Red Sonja. Red Sonja fought Nameless Jabroni. Well, I'm putting money on her all day.
Yeah, so for the purposes of a game, I don't think that at all mattered. At the same time, I don't hate that for AD&D First Edition has it, and I would not remove it from the game either. I think it's just part and parcel to that game.
Yeah. Anyway, also, some people may think it's important to say if their character is right or left-handed. Again, it does not affect the mechanics of the game, but something you want. On occasion, it may be useful to know your character's height and weight. Now, this one we're going to actually get into because there's a table for it. The best way to determine height and weight is to choose the appropriate number subject to your DM's approval. You don't need to roll, but you must choose a height or weight that is within the range of your race. No, we're not having 14-foot tall humans. No, that's not this world. Find a different setting, because in this setting, humans don't get that tall. We're also not having 5-inch humans either. Also not happening. Said the tallest man on record stood 8 feet 11 inches. Tallest woman was 8 feet 1.25 inches.
Is this
the
still
shortest
true
man
today?
was only 26.5 inches. That's just over 2 feet. That's crazy. Shortest woman was 24 inches. That's just as crazy.
No.
The heaviest man was estimated at 1,400 pounds, but he stood only 6 foot 1 inch. The heaviest woman was thought to have weighed 800. Now, this is back in 1988 or 89. Okay. So, people have gotten a lot fatter since then. So I'm sure those records are smashed. Players may also want to know their character's starting ages. This is something that is super important to me because time skips are built into this game. We're going to get into it in more detail when we go into classes, but when everyone hits 9th level, you get to do cool stuff. But this cool stuff does not happen overnight. Creating an entire castle takes years.
What?
Putting together a thieves guild properly that works at the end takes years.
No, the game says I get it, so that means I just get it.
Shut up, man. that's my thing. And when you're rolling your character and you're choosing your age, if you want to choose it within the range of ages for your race, you definitely can with DM's approval. But there is one roll the DM is going to make behind the scenes, and that is, where is it? Maximum age range. When the DM rolls this is the maximum age of your character. This is when your character is going to die of old age. Or in the case of an elf, this is when you're going to go away. This is important. Not just because we think the game is going to take that long, but there is such a thing in this game, obviously, as magical aging. You can be aged to death magically. And there is a magic number for that. That number is rolled here. Let's say you are a human. Your base age is 15. You have a D4 variable. That means you're going to either be 16, 17, 18, or 19 starting out. Now, if you want to choose any of those numbers, you can. Or you can roll and just get one of those numbers. But your maximum age is going to be 90 plus 2D20. That's pretty good, especially in a fantasy realm. Humans don't, I guess because of magic, but humans usually don't live that long in that kind of setting. But you could be 130 years old. That's your magic number. That's the number that's when you die. Either through natural aging or magical aging. Once you hit that effective number, you just keel over. That's it. You had a good run. It's over for you. And most importantly, aging effects. This is because lots of tables hand wave aging or don't age properly or forget to age people or whatever. This never comes into, actual focus during your game, but it does in mine, especially for long campaigns. Once you hit half of your average lifespan for a human, that is 45 years, half of your base, 45 years. You get a -1 to your strength and a -1 to your con permanently, but you also get a +1 to your intelligence and a +1 to your wisdom permanently. That means you could get up to 19 technically in either one if you were already at 18. You just live long enough to get even smarter or wiser. And then when you hit 2/3 of your base age, and in a human's case, this is 60, you get an additional, this is not total, this is additional -2 strength and -2 to your dex. And another -1 to your con, and you only get a +1 to your wisdom. And then when you hit venerable, when you hit your maximum base age, which is 90 for a human, another -1 to strength, dex, and con, but also another +1 to intelligence and +1 to wisdom. That means any human 90-year-old is 3 points wiser and 2 points smarter than he was when he was a kid. That's how it works. Okay. It's important that if you're playing a long-term campaign, you add these nuances to your game. It's going to change the way players play. It's going to change the way they make decisions. It's going to change what they do. If they know that creating that keep is going to take 3 to 5 years before it's done, they may just want to be a traveling warrior. You know, instead of investing all that time because they're 40 years old. When they hit 45, they're going to start getting weaker. Now, here's a good thing for fighters. If you have percentile strength, 1801 to 1800, instead of a -1 to your strength that first time, you lose half of your percentile strength. So if you were 1800, now you're 1850. If you were 1850, now you're 1825. When you hit old age, you lose all your percentile strength and an extra strength. So you go down to 17. I mean, for a 60-year-old man, you're damn strong, but nowhere near the strength you were in your prime. Now, for non-warriors, this doesn't matter. You don't have percentile strength, so you just lose the points as they come. Now, remember, this can be offset by magical items or magical effects. So a girdle of giant strength, doesn't matter how old you are, you wear that thing and you have the strength. You know, someone has a limited wish spell to wish your strength back. Hey, okay, cool. Do it. Awesome. Done.
Got a comment about your aging effects, though.
Well, since I'm done with this part, let's hear it.
Oh, erotics is... Go ahead.
Yep. I hate aging effects in my current long-term game called Life. Does anyone know where the reset button is, or who I can re-roll where I can re-roll a younger character? We're almost there. We're almost there. We're really, really close to having a successful brain transplant. We just got to let China, keep doing all these illegal experiments. And once they succeed, we go shut them down and confiscate all of their findings for the trial. And then all the rich people in the US are going to suddenly have, I don't know, be in the body of a teenage Cuban child. I don't know, something.
And with enough bribery, maybe a restoration spell.
There you go. There you go. So yeah, that's what I want to get into before I got into the dwarf. Now I can get into the dwarf. Where's the dwarf? There he is. All right. Dwarves are short, stocky fellows, easily identified by their size and shape. They average 4 to 4.5 feet tall. They have ruddy cheeks, dark eyes, dark hair. Dwarves generally live for around 350 years. Dwarves tend to be dour and taciturn. Okay, now, are all dwarves like this? No. Most dwarves are like this. Yes. If you want to play a dwarf that is happier or more happy-go-lucky,
play a gnome.
No. Technically, you can, because even inside the race, there's a bell curve. But you must run it by your dungeon master, and don't be too stupid and say, "Oh no, he got some brain damage when he was younger, and now he's a happy outlook on everything, and he loves everyone. He accepts all things as they are, and everyone can live and let live."
He was a dwarf raised by humans.
There you go. Yeah, no, that's not how it works. Don't do that. Don't be a Drizzt. It doesn't work. It's great for a story, but it just doesn't work at a table. I'm sorry.
Well, we probably said this last week. At least I think we may have, because I know we've said it a lot, but it comes down to this. There's no point other than game mechanics, and you basically at this point are metagaming or cheating, however you want to look at it. There's no point in playing a demi-human race if you are not going to stick to the demi-human race tropes and stereotypes.
It is not a human in a dwarf skin suit. That's not how it is. Each of these demi-humans have a world outlook based on both their culture and their genetics. So either play it like it's supposed to be or play a human, because humans can act like anything you want. That's their power. Anyway, let's move on. They are given to hard work and care little for most humor. They are strong and brave. They enjoy beer, ale, mead, and even stronger drink. Their chief love, however, is precious metal, particularly gold. They prize gems, of course, especially diamonds and opaque gems, except pearls, which they don't like because probably it comes out of a mollusk or whatever. Dwarves like the earth and dislike the sea. That's probably another reason why they don't like pearls that much. Not overly fond of elves. Now, look at that. Not overly fond. Doesn't say hate. Doesn't say hate. But if there's a dwarf and an elf passing each other on the street, that dwarf is probably going to ignore the elf. Like, I don't feel like dealing with that nonsense today. Not, pull out a knife and try and kill him. No.
You tolerate them when you have to.
Exactly. Not overly fond. Fine. They have a fierce hatred. There's your thing. Fierce hatred of orcs and goblins. And I understand because both of those are monsters and should be killed on sight.
Well, they also compete for resources.
There you go. Their short, stocky builds make them ill-suited for riding horses or other large mounts, although ponies present ponies and probably most burros or donkeys or whatever, probably fine. So they tend to be a trifle dubious and wary of these creatures. Yeah, because they're big and can stomp them, and it's I get it. I get it. They are ill-disposed toward magic and have little talent for it, but revel in fighting, warcraft, and scientific arts such as engineering. They are focused on what is real. And to them, what is real is what they can see, what they can hold in their hands, and what they can work with. That to them is most important in life. They can't use magic because they are magic resistant, so they have trouble using it. So for them, magic is not something they can hold. Magic is not something that they can mold, that they can change, they can make better. They can't do it, so they toss it aside. Don't like it. But building things, modifying things, digging in the ground, all that stuff is something they can wrap their brains and their hands around. That's what they love. A character of the Dwarven race can be a cleric, a fighter, or a thief. You can also choose to be a fighter cleric or a fighter thief. Those are your choices. Notice magic users not in there at all. Like I said, they can't use magic. But cleric is magic. No, it's not. It's bestowed gifts by God. You're not actually using the magic. You're praying to God for it. God does it for you, through you, as an instrument. From living underground, dwarves have found it useful to learn the languages of several of their neighbors, both friendly and hostile. The initial languages a dwarf can learn are common, dwarf, gnome, goblin, kobold, orc, and any others your DM allows, as long as they fit under the idea of, they live underground or are in the same territory where dwarves live. Then it makes sense. The actual number of languages is limited by the intelligence of the player character. Table 4 was in the ability scores we looked at earlier. The smarter you are, the more languages you start with, or by the non-weapon proficiencies that you get,
which we'll cover in a couple weeks.
Languages, which you can have more languages than you're normally allowed by intelligence because of non-weapon proficiencies. By nature, dwarves are non-magical and never use magic spells. Pre-spells are allowed because, like I said, it's just you're not actually casting it. God is casting it through you. This gives a bonus to dwarf saving throws against attacks from magic wands, stabs, rods, and spells. This bonus is +1 for every 3.5 points of their constitution score. And they get a bonus to their constitution score. This is great. So divide by 3.5. I don't know if it says round up or not, but I don't see it.
Well, if it doesn't say anything, you round normally.
If a dwarf has a constitution score of 7, he gains +2 on saving throws. Oh, thanks a lot for choosing something that didn't have to round at all. Jeez. These bonuses are summarized on table 9. Okay, maybe we'll see on table 9. Similarly, dwarves have exceptional resistance to toxic substances. All dwarven characters make saving throws against poison with the same bonuses they get against magical attacks. So, for every 3.5 of their constitution score, they get a +1. Now, I believe they have a minimum of a constitution of 11. So that's going to be a minimum of what, +3? Yeah. Yeah, their minimum score, I think, is 11 to be a dwarf. Also, because they're not magical nature, however, dwarves have trouble using magic items. All magical items that are not specifically suited to the character's class have a 20% chance to malfunction when used by a dwarf. So if they're a fighter thief and you have magical thieves tools, you're fine. They're not going to malfunction. If you are a fighter cleric and you have magic sword, it's going to be fine. Because a sword is, guess what? For the fighter class, it's great. You're fine. Or you have a magical holy symbol. That's going to work too. As long as you're a cleric, it's going to work. No problem. It's other stuff. Like I have a wand of magic missiles. Pew, pew, pew. Well, there's a 20% chance each time you activate it, it's just not going to work. A malfunction affects only the current use. The item may work properly next time. For devices that are continually in operation, the check is made the first time the device is used during an encounter. So basically the first time it matters. That's when you roll the check. If the check is passed, the device functions normally until it is turned off. Thus, a dwarf would have to check upon donning a robe of blending, but would not check again until he had taken it off and put it on again. So if you have some kind of ring of invisibility, you put it on. There's an 80% chance you become invisible. There's a 20% chance you don't. If you don't, you got to take it off. Wait a minute. And then put it back on again and re-roll. And once it works, it'll work perfectly until you take it off. Then you got to re-roll. If a cursed item malfunctions, the character recognizes its cursed nature and can dispose of the item. Malfunction apply. Okay, no. That was just one sentence that really breezed over the awesomeness that this is. Normally, you put on a cursed item and you are stuck with it. Even if you find out it's cursed, you can't take it off. That's part of the magic. You have to get a cleric to come around and remove curse or bless or whatever to get that crap off you. If you're a dwarf, you put it on and you roll that 0 to 20 or 1 to 20 on your percentile and it malfunctions on you. This says you immediately know it's cursed. And of course, you can take it off easily because it's not working. And then you give it to somebody you don't like. Or you just get rid of it. Whatever. But that's amazing. I mean, if knowing that, if I had a dwarf in the party, I'd be like, oh, this looks really cool. Try this on. He'll be, all loaded up with a whole bunch of magic weapons, or he saved my life. Either way. Malfunction applies to rods, staffs, wands, rings, amulets, potions, horns, jewels, and all other magical items except weapons, shields, armor, gauntlets, and girdles. These things, it doesn't work the same. The penalty does not apply to dwarven clerics using priest items. Of course not. In melee, dwarves add 1 to their die roll to hit orcs, half-orcs, goblins, and hobgoblins. When ogres, trolls, ogre, magi, giants, or titans attack dwarves, these monsters must subtract 4 from their attack roll because the dwarf's small size and combat ability against these much bigger creatures. So it's a mixture of small size, and dwarves are taught to fight these big things with specific tactics.
One of the improper stereotypes that have happened with dwarves, and I don't know where it came from, and I fall into it sometime as well, a dwarf can still have an 18 dexterity.
Yeah, dwarves can minus is to charisma. Yeah,
dwarves can be quite dead. That's why they also be thieves.
Yeah,
dwarves are quite dexterous, or they can be. So yeah, having a little rolling ball of armor that isn't getting stomped on by that giant. Actually,
think of Attack of the Clones Yoda, but instead of a lightsaber with an axe. The dwarf just jumping around everywhere.
That might be a bit excessive, but we can.
I know, but it's fun to think with that. Dwarven infravision enables them to see up to 60 feet in the dark. Now, infravision does not require light of any kind. Right?
Yeah, it's predator sight.
Yeah. Dwarves are miners of great skill. While underground, they can detect the following information when within 10 feet of the particular phenomenon, but they can determine their approximate depth below the surface at any time. Now, what is this phenomenon that they can do? Detect greater slope in a passage, detect a new tunnel/passage construction, detect sliding, shifting walls, detect stonework traps, pits, and deadfalls, determine approximate depth underground. Now, note, the dwarf must deliberately try to make these determinations. You don't get them automatically. You must say to the dungeon masters, hey, stop, I want to search for traps, pits, and deadfalls built into the stonework. I want to estimate how far underground I am. You're not a machine. You don't know it automatically. You got to deduce it, which takes a certain amount of time. Because of their sturdy builds, dwarves add 1 to their initial con scores. Their dour and suspicious natures cause them to subtract 1 from their initial charisma scores. So that is the dwarf. Now, if you can play a dwarf correctly, dour, humorless, well, not humorless, but
I get what you're saying.
Not prone to jolly behavior.
You're not a bard, no matter what 5e tells you.
No, you're not. As a matter of fact, you can't be a bard. So shut up.
Well, let's look at that last sentence right there. Their dour and suspicious natures cause them to subtract 1 from their initial charisma score. So even if you roll a high charisma, you're going to lose 1.
Yeah.
If you, and I can't remember, can they have a 17 or a 16 for charisma as max? I know they lose one.
Maximum, I believe, is 17. So you're going to have a maximum of a 16.
Somewhere around there. So if 16 is good, don't get me wrong. 16 is actually great. If you get that 16 charisma and you want to play a dwarf that's not so taciturn and not so dour and not so grumpy, cool.
Yep. If you have an 18 charisma, you cannot be a dwarf.
Right.
You cannot choose to be a dwarf because maximum after rolling ability scores is 17.
But to be fair again, and then remember from the video last week, that 17 is before the modifier. The modifier now goes down to 16. That's still dang good.
Yeah, especially for a dwarf. It's the best, it's the most charismatic, the greatest dwarf politician ever.
So that is the dwarf that might not be so dour, that might not be so stubborn.
That's the guy. That's the guy who's going to be more sociable because he's better at it. And people respond to him. But most dwarves are not going to have that. Most dwarves are going to have a 10 or less. Because, they're going to roll average and then get a -1. So it's going to be a 10 or a 9 or an 8. Likely more a 7 in my experience. But yeah, that is the dwarf. Now, if you can play a dwarf, I do recommend it. They're very tough. They're very strong. Multi-class is no joke for Demians. It's a great power. It's a great ability of them.
Can you go to the page with their level limitations?
I don't think that is here. I think it's in classic.
I think it's in the classic. But can we? But since we're here about the dwarf, can we show? Because I would like to see how high a dwarf can go up as a fighter. Because I don't think it's max.
Well, let's go ahead and finish this first. Let's finish this segment and then we'll look at it in between.
Oh, I was doing it for the purposes of the video so people can see it. But okay.
No. Yeah. So thank you. The next video is going to be on elves, which is funny because the whole dwarf and elf, they're not overly fond of each other, which is absolutely true. But elves, to be fair, are not overly fond of anyone. So there's that. And we're going to get into that when we look at elves. But what do we have for any comments?
So got a couple here. Reminder for folks, if you want to see some of the things that I talk about the differences between dwarves and elves in one video, doesn't dive into it like he is, but explains some of why a dwarf looks at an elf and says, what the hell is wrong with you? And why an elf looks at a dwarf and says, what the hell is wrong with you? I have a video on racism/speciesism in AD&D that you can check out as well. So read that one already. So Kokoshuko says, what's your character's
blood type? And if they had, if D&D had some kind of blood transfusion thing, that'd be important. But again, it's something you can put down. I mean, an elf has a blood type of green positive. I don't know.
Green positive. What I thought was funny about this is that's every JRPG ever. There's something about the Japanese and wanting to know about blood types that I find very odd. But you know what? Go Japan. Doc Flamingo for $5 says, I was banned for life from RPG.net. Hasn't everybody been at this point? Haven't they banned everybody for posting sections of a game I was working on that had trait modifiers for sex?
Yep. And that's just dumb people being dumb, man. I don't know. I don't know what else to say. I mean, it's completely legit for a game because it even oh god, I already talked about this. I mean, you can put any kind of modifiers for anything you want in your game because that doesn't exist. It literally can hurt nobody. And yet people decide that their feelings are more important than everyone else's facts. So there you are.
There's a little bit of a conversation going on. I'm going to put the comment up here that sparked it, and then we can have a quick conversation about this. Engine Joe says, fighter thief, or can you specialize as thief fighter where the fighter level advances even slower because your primary class focus is thief? Now, that comment by itself might be a little confusing, but there's been more conversation that comes after it, and I'm going to put up. Ultimately, it looks like he was confusing dual classing with multi-classing.
Yes.
So would you like, since you're covering demi-humans right now, would you like to talk about the difference between...
We're going to get into classes later, but multi-classing is only for demi-humans. Dual classing is only for humans. You cannot choose a specialty in multi-classing. Each class gets half of all the experience points that you earned. Now, the thing is, thief class advances at a much higher rate than all other classes. So technically, you are going to level up in thief first. Because if exactly half your experience points is going to a fighter part and a thief part, the thief part needs less to get to level 2, needs less to get to level 5. So you will advance faster in thief than you will in fighter. So I suppose effectively you are kind of specializing in thief all the time. If thief is one of your multi-classes, but it's not on purpose. It's just the effect of how the class raises levels. And dual class, completely different. I mean, if you want to say specialty, I suppose that would be the class you choose first. Yeah. Technically, I guess. But I wouldn't even say I couldn't even say that with a straight face. We're going to explain all that when we get to classes, but we're not there yet.
Yeah, I don't like dual classing at all.
They make it hard for a reason.
Yeah. All right. There we go. What are you covering next? Elves?
Next is elves.
All right. So stay tuned for the discovery of our hippie brethren, the elves. That is right. This is where Talis Lanta was right. Still no elves. I think the game Riddle of Steel said that as well, or something close. Nobody should want to play an elf. Nobody should like an elf, but because Heathen Dog has to cover it, and I'm making him do it, he's gonna do it in the next episode. Chained to his chair as he may be. Now, if you're a dirty hippie elf lover and you want to put in the comments about why you like elves, I'm not going to read it. But everybody else, I look forward to your comments and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Talk to you then.